Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Cambridge Advanced Accelerator podcast. My name is Cheryl, and I'm here to help you with all things related to the Cambridge Advanced exam and, of course, getting your level up to that C1 or even C2 level. So this week, the World Cup has kicked off. To kick off means to start, or phrasal verb. The World Cup has kicked off. World Cup fever has taken over the world. And for the first time in 28 years, Scotland are in the World Cup. And the first game was on last Saturday at 2 a.m. my time. I did not get up to watch the game. But all the pubs in Scotland stayed open late for the match. My dad went down to the local at 2 a.m. to watch this match, and staggered up the road at 4 a.m. And spoiler alert, Scotland won. Scotland won their first match. They're in a group with Brazil, so it doesn't bode well for the future. It doesn't bode well. To bode well, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for moving forward in the World Cup. Being in the same group as Brazil. But you might see all over Instagram at the moment, or at least all over my feed because I'm Scottish, that Scotland have already won the World Cup with their amazing rendition of the national anthem, Flower of Scotland, around the stadium. And I was watching it this morning, kind of looking at the scores, watching it this morning with a wee tear in my eye, just feeling really, really proud of being Scottish. And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about Scotland, really. But there is an English lesson in this, I promise. So yeah, I think every Scot is extremely proud. There's a lot of pride in being Scottish, and especially when the football is on and everybody goes to all the football matches in their kilts. It's called the Tartan Army when they travel for football. So the Tartan Army took over Boston at the weekend in their kilts with their bagpipes, playing all the Scottish songs, and yeah, it was an amazing atmosphere. And I'm going over to Scotland for the summer as well. I'm taking Ellie for the first time. Ellie, my wife, I'm taking her to the Highlands and the Islands of Scotland to see a bit more of it than we normally just go over for Christmas, and just go to Aberdeen where my parents live. So we're taking her to some more far-flung places, some more faraway places, far-flung places in Scotland. But I was just thinking today, so a lot of you guys tell me, oh, Cheryl, you don't really have much of a Scottish accent. You've got a fairly neutral accent, or an English accent, or an American accent. You don't sound very Scottish. Why is that? And see, the thing is, although maybe today, I sound a bit more Scottish today because I've just been listening to the Scottish national anthem, feeling all proud. Maybe I sound a bit more Scottish today. But I've been teaching English for nearly 20 years now. And I'm very good at grading my English to the people I'm speaking to. So to grade your English, to change the level of language that I'm using, so maybe change the speed I'm talking at, or the vocabulary that I'm using to make it easier for someone to understand. And I generally know by, even if I'm speaking to people where I live in Tenerife. So if there's some Spanish people and they're trying to speak to me in English, I can kind of very quickly kind of gauge what level they are and then change my language appropriately. And I'll know what words they'll understand or won't understand in a conversation. for example, I know very well Ellie's level of English. Like, she has a very high level of English. But I know very well if she's chatting to my family and they use some obscure Scottish expression, or they use a phrasal verb that's not so common, I'll know automatically that she doesn't know it, or she won't know it, and I'll kind of I'll jump in and rephrase it in a different way, so that she can kind of understand the conversation. So I'm very good at doing that, and that's very natural for me to do, and I think it's quite natural for teachers to do. So this kind of begs the question of when you say, why can't I understand native speakers, but I can understand my teacher, and I can understand the news, and I can understand TED Talks. But why, when I go on holiday, why is it like they're speaking a completely different language? What's going on? Usually it's this, that teachers and course books are grading the language to your level. And the news and TED Talks, things like this, they're not using a whole bunch of colloquial language from whatever area you're going to visit. They're not using a whole load of slang. They're using more kind of academic, more formal kind of language, especially if you're watching something like the BBC News. It's going to be fairly neutral to academic language in the RP accent. So the received pronunciation accent, this is the accent that you typically think of when you think of Britain, like the Queen's accent. This is RP. But in the real world, every kind of part of Britain that you go to is going to have their own kind of their own slang, their own kind of words and language as well, their own accent. And of course, there's a lot of kind of more informal phrasal verbs, expressions, and idioms that are used all the time. So this is what makes it tricky. So if you're going to Scotland, you're going to have to deal with probably more kind of more colloquial language than perhaps other parts of the UK, or even a different language, because of course we have Gaelic, which is the Scottish language, and then we have dialects. Like where I'm from is Aberdeen, and we have a dialect, although some people debate whether it's a language or a dialect because it's so different. We have a dialect called Doric. So for example, if I want to say, hello, how are you, in Doric, I would say, fit like, foo's your dues. Completely different. And the response to that is, oh, I'm fine, thanks. You can either say, normal Scottish would be, nae bad, I'm nae bad. Or you could say in Doric, chavin awa. So, foo's your dues, chavin awa. So, completely different. However, Ellie knows all this. Every time she speaks to my dad on the phone, my dad's like, fit like Ellie, and she's like, aye, nae bad, chavin awa. Like, she knows how to respond in Doric. But that's because she's done it a million times. But there's always some funny situations that come up. And I probably shouldn't tell you this story, but I'm going to tell you this story anyway. And I know Ellie listens to this podcast while she's driving to work. So she's probably going to kill me for telling you this story. But anyway, so one example I can give you guys of the troubles of kind of learning coursebook language or learning language with a teacher, and then kind of language in the real world is one day we were in Edinburgh, and we were going to go to Boots. Now Boots is the kind of the big pharmacy chain in the UK. It's not like little pharmacy shops that you get in Europe. Like, they're massive. They're like it's like a supermarket. Anyway, we were in Edinburgh and we needed to go to Boots because Ellie had her period and we needed to go get sanitary towels. Okay, sanitary towels. This is the standard word for this product. However, I never use the word sanitary towels because it's very formal. I always use the informal version, which is fanny pads. Fanny is a slang word for vagina, and pads is pads. So Ellie went into Boots, having never heard the official term of the word sanitary towels. She went into Boots and she wanted to be very polite like British people are. And she went in and she was looking for them and she couldn't find them because Boots is massive. So she asked a shop assistant, because they're always very friendly there, and they're always like, "Hello, can I help you? Can I help you?" And she said, very polite way, "Oh yes, sorry to bother you. I was wondering if you could tell me where the fanny pads are." So she had this really like posh start, and then she just went in with fanny pads. And the girl, she said that the girl was laughing at her, and pointed her in the direction of the fanny pads. And Ellie came out the shop with a like confused look on her face, and kind of came up to me. I don't know why, I was waiting outside, but I was waiting outside, and she came up to me and she's like, "Oh, I've got them, but the girl was laughing at me, and I don't understand why." I was like, "What did you say?" And then she told me. I was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I never taught you the proper word for fanny pads." I'm like, fanny pads is like really, really slang. So she was a bit annoyed at me that I didn't teach her the official word. But it just goes to show you that the language you learn in course books and the language that's on the street are completely different. But also that there's two forms of language that it's really important that you learn. You need to learn the kind of formal or academic language, and you need to learn the slang and informal. And most important, you need to know which situation is appropriate, like where you should be using each one. And this is often the difference between C1 and C2 level, is not necessarily learning new vocabulary, but knowing which one is appropriate in which situation. Because this is what I see often in the Cambridge Advanced exam, is students learn advanced vocabulary and they perhaps use it in their essay, but they're throwing in a whole load of informal language that they see as like, "Oh, this is C2 level, this is really advanced, I'm going to use it." But it's completely inappropriate for the style of writing that they're doing. So it actually kind of brings down their grade. And vice versa in speaking, learning some really fancy academic language, but then kind of using it in conjunction with really informal sentences as well, makes it sound really strange. Like, for example, if you would use the word "I reckon," which is very informal, in context of saying what the government should do or should implement in order to combat climate change, it sounds really strange. It sounds out of place. So this is something that's important in your language journey, is knowing which language is appropriate for the context. But I digress a little. I wanted to get back to Scotland and our kind of plethora of different accents, different language, different collocations, different areas with different slang. Because there's something else that's really important that you know when you're speaking to native speakers. So one is that they're going to use this kind of language. But the second thing is, remember that, and it's not just in Scotland, in England as well, in Ireland, in Wales, in the UK, in general, we do not learn grammar at school. We learn English literature like Shakespeare and stuff, but we don't learn grammar. So there's not like separate grammar classes, or at least when I was at school, there wasn't. So when you speak to me, I instinctively know how to grade my language and what you're going to know or not going to know, because I've spent 20 years doing this. This is my job. This is what I do. However, the average person on the street, or my mum, my dad, my sisters, they don't know this. And on top of that, they don't know what things you're going to find difficult. They don't know what a phrasal verb is. They don't know what an idiom is. So they don't realize that get on, get off with, get up to, get at, get over. They don't understand that that's difficult. That like a verb plus a preposition with a completely different meaning is difficult. So when they're speaking to you and you might say, sorry, I didn't understand. Maybe they might speak a bit slower or they might speak a bit louder, but they don't know how to say that in a different way. They're just going to repeat the same word and not realize that that's difficult for you. So something that I would recommend that you do, if this happens to you, if you're like, what are you talking about, is educate the native speaker. Like basically I sat down with my whole family one day, it was New Year, so they were all there. My cousins were over from Australia and America, my auntie was there, my sisters, my brother, everybody was there, and we were all chatting around the table, and Ellie was getting a bit quiet and a bit lost. So we actually just opened this up as a discussion, and we kind of explained what phrasal verbs were and why it was difficult. And they all had this kind of light bulb moment of like, oh my God, I didn't realize that was a thing. I didn't realize that was difficult. And because, of course, none of them speak another language, so they've never been put in that situation in another language to make that kind of connection. And again, that's the typical British person. Like they generally don't learn other languages, or they can order a beer and a wine and the bill in other languages, but that's about the extent of language learning from us Brits. So yeah, once we sat down and explained that, then they started to kind of, it started to click. They started to make a bit more of an effort if Ellie was like, sorry, what? Which is kind of more common language than, I'm sorry, could you repeat that please? She's like, sorry, what? They would learn like, oh, okay, hang on, that was a difficult word. I don't need to just say it more slowly. I need to say that in a different way. And once they started getting used to that, it became much easier for Ellie to kind of join in the conversations. Or if they used a Scottish word, like our dialect words, then they kind of automatically have it in their head now. If they say something like, "Oh, I'm fair stap it," which means I'm full. So if they say, "Oh gosh, I'm fair stap it," I'm full. They just kind of repeat it in English afterwards until Ellie gets used to it. Like she knows a huge amount of this vocabulary now, so she doesn't need that kind of extra support and help as much as she used to. But at least they know how to do that. So if you are going to the UK maybe to live or something, just if that happens to you, and obviously, you know, you're not going to have this conversation with a shop assistant or someone that you're never going to see again. But if you're regularly in contact with kind of native speakers and feeling a bit bad and kind of struggling to understand them, just bringing that up, having that little conversation for 5 minutes can be kind of a game changer for you in terms of being able to understand them. But it's also going to help them in the future be better communicators, because the most English spoken in the world is not by native speakers, it's by people trying to communicate in English as the kind of common language. So if native speakers can get better at speaking English in a clear way, then it's going to help everyone as well. So don't be afraid, don't be shy to educate native speakers a little bit on why phrasal verbs and idioms are challenging, because I guarantee you they're not going to take it. They're not going to take it in the wrong way. They're going to have that little light bulb moment of like, oh my god, I didn't realize. And if they do take it in the wrong way, then they're just being a bit of a dick, really. So just ignore those. You don't want to speak to those ones anyway. So yeah, that is my little pearls of wisdom, my words of wisdom for today. And if you're ever interested in learning a bit more Scottish, feel free to send me a message. I'm always delighted to teach some Scottish words. I will be ramping up. Ramping up means increasing. I will be ramping up my Scottish vocabulary and phrasal verbs in the next few weeks while I'm speaking to Elliot in the house. She's not even going to realise I'm doing it, although she will now because she's going to listen to this. I'll know if she's listened to the whole thing or not if she asks me about this. But I usually, before we go to Scotland, I kind of secretly start changing my vocabulary a little bit and making it a little bit more Scottish, throwing in a few more Scottish words and phrasal verbs while we're chatting, just so that when she gets to the UK, it's not such a shock for her. And we're going to be there for 2 weeks, so she's got a lot of English speaking to do. Anyway, I'll tell you all about our adventures of Scotland in July when we're there. But for the moment, have an absolutely fantastic week. We will speak to you very soon. And any questions, of course, let me know in the comments.